Switzerland's history with the Mirage III was actually kind of controversial. In the early 1960s, they purchased a Mirage for testing and started negotiations for local production. The Swiss envisioned a role for the Mirage III as kind of a do-everything jet. They wanted to have it set up for ground attack, air interception, and reconnaissance work, all using the same airframe. And that's where the problems began. To say that the program was mismanaged would be an understatement, with scope creep hitting the project early, periodic integrations of improvements from France and from domestic engineers along the way. Sometimes those were even forcing significant redesigns of major systems. Oh, and they had oversights in the financial accounting, which all combined to lead to cost overruns that created a fairly significant scandal back in the day. To make matters worse, as the program dragged on, each new delay from a new requirement caused enough of a delay that another new requirement or upgrade was added before the first one was fully addressed. Despite the original Mirage III already being a completed and mature design when the contracts were signed back in 1961, it took over 6 years to get the new Mirage-IIIS actually produced and put into service. Now, the new jet did actually have some significant changes from the earlier Mirage IIIs. The most obvious visual difference is the canards mounted above the air intakes, which are actually a late upgrade to the jet. But under the skin, things are kind of interesting. The jet had a weapon system and radar built around using American rather than French weapons. Its structure was strengthened to withstand more routine use of JATO pods. It had mounting points added to be transported by crane and stored in underground bunkers. The landing gear was reworked, and the jet's internal rocket booster was modified for more routine use. However, due to all of the scandals and cost overruns, the overall order of 100 jets was scaled back, and only 36 were actually delivered to the Swiss Air Force. The Mirage IIIS flew until 1999 in its air combat role, but soldiered on as a recon jet until 2002. What we get in War Thunder is the Mirage IIIS C-70, a jet fighter in Rank 7 of the German air tree at battle rating 10.3. This jet gets a fairly capable radar warning receiver for its BR that tracks into the J-band. Its radar is the Taran 18. This is a rather simplistic radar that has BVR targeting only, plain lookup search mode, limited scan angles, and somewhat unreliable target tracking beyond 30 kilometers. More on this later. For loadouts, the jet can take up to 4 air-to-air missiles, JATO boosters, a built-in rocket booster, and either a pair of bombs or a centerline drop tank. Your infrared missile is the I'm just going to call it the Sidewinder. It's an AIM-9E. Despite having an uncaged seeker, it's still basically an entry-level version of the Sidewinder, and its performance is a bit behind some of the dogfighting missiles at this BR. Your semi-active radar missile is a Swiss designation for the American AIM-26B Falcon. Now, the performance of this weapon is actually pretty good for this BR. Its tracking is better than most of the other entry-level radar missiles, and it has 28 Gs of pull. The main limitations are that it's not especially fast, and it's somewhat short-ranged. In a practical sense, you won't reliably hit targets past about 15 kilometers, even in a head-on, unless they're basically trying to eat your missile. To answer the question some of you are wondering, even though it's part of the Falcon missile family, this does have a proximity fuse, and it works. The flight performance of the Mirage IIIS is going to be a little quirky at its BR. The first thing you're going to notice is that the acceleration isn't great, and in a lot of matches, you're going to be well behind your team if you charge right into the mid-map. This jet can still get tiered into subsonic and non-afterburning fighters, so you can outrun some of your opposition in a longer chase. But for short-distance acceleration, a lot of afterburning jets will simply outperform the Mirage IIIS. Now that's where the rocket booster can come in handy. Taking the booster on this Mirage doesn't require you to give up the guns for an extra fuel tank, and you can get about a minute of rocket boost, which can really come in handy if you need to offset energy loss in a tight maneuver or regain some lost airspeed quickly. It's not an enormous amount of extra thrust, but it is enough to make a difference. Now, the turn performance and dogfighting agility are going to be highly situational. The instantaneous turn performance at medium speeds is pretty strong, better than most other jets at its BR actually, but the sustained turn rate is comparably low. The energy bleed is enormous, and in a low-speed slow crawl, almost anything you face will eventually close the circle on you, and there really won't be much you can do about it. Careful use of the rocket booster can help a little bit, but it's not unlimited and it doesn't completely solve the problem. It's also worth mentioning that this jet has a really sloppy coordinated rudder response. This means that it can kind of wobble around a bit coming out of a roll, or even just trying to make an otherwise small rudder adjustment, which isn't a huge crippling problem or anything, but it can complicate aiming the weapons and make it a little harder to line up shots in the first second or two coming out of a maneuver. When you head out into an air battle with this jet, I'm going to suggest a similar sort of mission profile as I recently suggested with the Mirage III-C. I've had fairly good luck with this plane using the opening phase of a match to take shots with the Falcon missiles on targets that were flying at medium and high altitude, before switching to a more conventional fight at lower altitudes. Now, neither of its missile types are especially good for dogfighting, but the Falcons perform surprisingly well for an interception type shot. They won't start reliably tracking for a moment or two after you fire them, so point-blank shots aren't as much of a sure thing. But if you engage targets between like 3 to 8 kilometers, they can be quite effective. Just remember that they're pretty slow after the booster runs out, so hold your radar lock for an extra 3 or 4 seconds after it feels like you should give up. You can see what I'm talking about in a few of the higher altitude clips I included in the footage, where the missile scores a kill a few seconds after it feels like it probably missed. The real complicating factor is the lack of an ACM targeting mode on the radar set. This makes it incredibly difficult to reliably lock targets at lower altitudes, or to select the correct target out of a cluster while you're in the heat of combat turning around and stuff. It's still perfectly functional, but it'll take a little bit of practice, and you could see in the footage that I fumbled with target selection a couple of times. That's what I get for playing so many different vehicles back to back. Its Sidewinder is an AIM-9E, and if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know that I really don't like this weapon. It's not very good for dogfighting and has significantly lower overall performance to the Falcons, but it's still your best shot within 2 kilometers or so. Just remember that it's only got 10 Gs of pull, so if you want to connect hits, you have to shoot when the opponent is unlikely to aggressively change direction. I want to finish out by saying that even though this jet is similar to the Mirage III-C in the French tech tree, the extra 0.3 BR actually makes a big difference in this case, and it's still good, but it generally won't be as dominant as the Mirage III-C can be. Visually, it's another Mirage 3, this time with canards. It's a great looking jet, and I really like the gold paint job you get for it. The only issue is that the graphics for the rocket booster exhaust are a little glitchy sometimes. Now, landing this jet is going to be a new experience if you're coming into it from the Hunter before it in the tech tree. Being a delta wing supersonic jet, landing speeds are pretty fast, but you get a drag chute and the air brakes help. You can drop the gear at about 425 kilometers an hour, but no landing flaps. Inside the cockpit, this jet is great to fly. Pretty good visibility, the radar warning receiver is right in my favorite spot, and a clearly visible radar scope. For a jet at its tier, this is a pretty good experience with the VR headset. To finish up with the Mirage-IIIS. This jet gets 4 air-to-air missiles, 2 of which are fairly good for its BR. It has really good instantaneous turn performance, and it's got a legit rocket booster. However, its IR dogfight missiles aren't the best. Its energy retention and low-speed dogfighting performance are both kinda bad, and its radar doesn't get ACM targeting. The final verdict on the Mirage-IIIS is that this jet can be reasonably effective with a little practice, and the Falcon missiles are better than you might expect them to be. Its BR puts it in a highly competitive bracket, and you may not be carrying the team every match, but it's still fun to fly and it can give you some good scores. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, check out this next one.